we're going to get started. People will join in as they often do. They'll come and go. I really want to thank you all for being here. It's a really special conversation, means a lot to me. Monique has been in my life for, God, dare I count?
Before
15, yeah, before her children, when mine were little.
I'm going to say we're probably closer to 18.
Yeah, I think you're
Early
right.
2000s, I was knee deep in Motorola. So.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. So we have a lot of history, and as we just realized, we're supposed to actually be in Cannes drinking rosé in about 2 weeks from now, but won't be there as we did last summer. Alyssa is a newer part of my life and my, I would say, extended family and heart. She came into my life because of work, and she works with Quincy Jones, and because I had done some projects with him, I then got to inherit Alyssa in the process, and we have worked on some really special things together. And I credit Alyssa, and I'm forever grateful to Alyssa for helping me facilitate, or for her facilitating the forward in my book from Quincy Jones. And she's an extraordinary individual. I'm going to give you background on both of them in a moment. But to kick this off, as always, I'm going to do a brief reading, and I also have a power tool to share today that I would like to do at the top of the call, because I want this to speak to the theme of today's conversation. And I want all of us to think about who we are and how we're showing up in the world. And this might have sounded a little different a couple of weeks ago when we were just really focused, and not that we should ever stop focusing on being the best that we can be and having the best lives that we could have. But the context now, I think, requires that we all do a little more work than we normally would for even better outcomes, and for a lot of good reasons. And hopefully we impact the people around us even more so. So I'm going to read a very small couple of paragraphs from chapter 2 called The Aha Moment. I think we're having a major, major aha moment right now. There's a quote at the top of this chapter. Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. That's by Stephen Pressfield. The most important part of any reinvention is the very first step, realization. Awaken to that voice within that says you need a change. Many of us have spent months, years even, sublimating that voice. We've made excuses. We've told ourselves we're too old, too poor, not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, or not entitled to expect more from our lives. And I will add, maybe not educated enough. The realization phase of your reinvention is about taking out the earplugs, drowning out the background noise, and listening. Truly listening to what your whole authentic self really needs. Part of that listening is actively assessing all aspects of your earthly world to find your pain points and understand where you could benefit from a change. The process will be different for all of us. So as I read that, and I was looking for the right passage to read today, that spoke to me in such a different way than it would have a few weeks ago. And in the context of this conversation, I felt like this was such a great thing to bring up, to talk about our aha moment that we're having, to understand that we are having a realization. And I talk all the time about listening to ourselves, but I want to say that we need to be listening to others right now. We need to be learning, and we need to hopefully take all of that work that we're all doing right now to be better, to live a better, more authentic self. And hopefully that authentic self is someone that really steps up and does the work to make this, as Monique just reminded me a little while ago when we spoke, that this is a human issue that is going on right now. And it's so much bigger than all of us. And it's so important that we step into it with full eyes open, ears open, hearts open, arms open, and that we have these conversations. So it's really, you know, I hope I don't get teary-eyed, because knowing me, I will. But the topic today is really critical, and I wish there were thousands of people listening, and we'll share it and we'll amplify it, and I hope we all take a little piece of this into our lives. If you're here, you knew what conversation you were coming to, so thank you, because clearly you're here. But it's time to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable for all of us. It's time to take a stand and stand for something. Having a voice is important right now to force action, individually, corporately, in the halls, in the streets. This is the time. It's time to have a voice, as we're clearly seeing, and it is time to take action. And I want to just acknowledge, since the moment to acknowledge that his life was sacrificed, hopefully for the better of this conversation and what the catalyst it will be recognized for, to Ahmaud Arbery, to Breonna Taylor, for everyone before them that has been a quote 11 o'clock news story and nothing more. But, you know, a moment of anger and frustration and hurt and pain for people. But then what? And, you know, we have to really put our foot on the gas pedal right now. And we cannot let this conversation slow up after today, or this week, or this month, or this news cycle. That is not good enough. And all those pretty hashtag social media posts, we're going to talk about those a little bit, but they have to continue in different forms and different shapes and different sizes. But this is our God-given right and our ability and our entitlement and who we should all strive to be. And, you know, that's all we can say, right? So I want to thank Monique and Alyssa for being here today to help share some perspective from their worlds in these conversations. And I just want to reiterate, before I go into a little background on both of these badass, gorgeous, amazing women and friends of mine, that Monique and I were scheduled to have this chat today on the Reinvention virtual chat, because we just were. Monique is a badass and amazing and extraordinary at what she does. And I was so excited to have her here as a voice of inspiration and motivation and wisdom and heart and working motherhood and so many other titles that I could give her. And when the world went a little crazy a week ago, I thought, okay, I've got to silence the Reinvention virtual chat for last week because we just couldn't go there last week. But wow, what a beautiful thing that she was scheduled for today. And what do we do with this conversation? And in the meantime, I'd been having conversations with Alyssa separately, and she was posting some really extraordinary things on her social media that I was reading. And I reached out to her and I said, I'm here. I'm reading and rereading what you and Quincy and Adam and the team are all writing, and I'm here and I'm hearing it and I'm listening. What can I do? How do I be on this journey with you? I'm here. I'm in. Like, I'm all in. I want to do this with you. It's not teach me, tell me what to do. Just put me in the room so I can hear and I can listen. And her response was so beautiful. And as we started to connect on this, and she shared some other content from their conversations with me, and I read everything, I said, you know what? I need this voice of this young woman who is a different generation, who is the voice of a generation that we're seeing on the streets of my kids' generation that are 24 and 20 and saying, Mom, don't post that 11 o'clock news story of the, you know, the city being looted. That's not the thing to put on your social media, Mom. What are you thinking? I'm like, oh my God, they're so right. Take it down. What, you know, like, I need that. You know, I'm sensitive to all of this and everybody. And how do I do this? So with that being said, where's my notes? Hold on. I got papers here. I'm going to give you a quick background. Well, they're not going to be quick. I'm sorry. They're going to be long, and they're going to be honoring of these two amazing women. And then we're going to have some great conversation. And I urge you, please, to put anything in the chat that you want to ask or share or comment on, as long as it's nice. It can be a hard question, but be nice. We're playing nice here, which I expect anyway. And then we'll get to questions and Q&A a little bit later. I'm going to start by reading a little background on Alyssa. Alyssa is the Chief of Staff at Quincy Jones Production, began her career with the company during her sophomore year at Loyola Marymount University. Through her role, she has production credits on Taking the Stage, Changing America, the dedication concert for the opening of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. I'm going to pause after each one because you got to like soak in what this young woman has accomplished, okay? Number 2, hang on, the Soundtrack of America, the 5-night opening concert series for the Shed at the Hudson Yards. Soul of a Nation celebration, the official concert dedicated to the Soul of a Nation exhibition at the Broad Museum here in LA, and more. In addition to working full-time at Quincy Jones Productions, she's a consultant, a public speaker, a speechwriter, a musician, and aerialist. And she's being modest in her bio here, let me just say. As a strong advocate for the advancement of females in executive level positions, she has delivered speeches on the topic to audiences ranging from middle school students to more than 1,000 top-level executives in the corporate world. Her work has received national recognition by US Bank, Womanetics, and Delta Airlines. As a result, she was one of only 5 women in the nation chosen to speak at the 2014 Global Women's Initiative Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Currently, she maintains an active role on the board of the New Institute of Arts and Innovation in LA. Furthermore, she continues to use her voice both in public speaking and writing to affect positive change for various communities in which justice is frequently underserved. So thank you, Alyssa. You're amazing, amazing. I can't wait to see what the future is for you, because I'm in. I'm with you. I want to be your sidekick. She calls me her mentor. I call her my mentor.
No, not at all.
Monique, are you ready for this one? Okay, so Monique Nelson is the chair and chief executive officer of UWG, the country's longest standing multicultural marketing agency. She took the helm of the agency in May 2012 when the founder and ad pioneer Byron Lewis retired. That was a pretty huge step for you, Monique, at that point in your life. And I was there witnessing every step of the journey, and it's glorious to see where you are today. Headquartered in Brooklyn with offices in Detroit, Atlanta, and Miami, UWG maintains a list of esteemed clients. Today, this list includes Ford Motor Company, Colgate-Palmolive, the Home Depot, Bacardi US, Coca-Cola, the US Marines, and so many others. As one of the country's leading multicultural agencies, UWG services its clients with general market, Black, Hispanic, Asian, and LGBT marketing and advertising, digital and traditional advertising, consumer insight, public relations, consumer healthcare communications, and cultural fluency consulting. Ms. Nelson has expanded the agency's client list and has led her team in the development of several award-winning campaigns. And they go on and on. I'm going to just kind of skip to, with today's minorities becoming the new majority, Ms. Nelson, I'm going to call you Monique, sorry, sees the role of multicultural agencies as even more important than when UWG was founded 50 years ago. Hear, hear. Now is your time, Monique. Like more than ever, might be efficient. It may not be effective, according to Monique. Thus, her vision for UWG is to continue its history of providing the deep insight, knowledge, and cultural nuance that keeps its clients connected to their consumers. Prior to UWG, Monique was a global lead for entertainment marketing at Motorola, which is the lifetime in which she and I met and became really fabulous friends. She sits on the Advertising Week Global Board, Adweek Diversity and Inclusion Council, the Brandeis Board of Trustees, the Eagle Academy Board, as well as the New York Advisory Board for the Posse Foundation, of which she's an alumni. She's a participant in the ANA's Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing. She gives back to her alumni at Vanderbilt, a Madison internship program. I tried to sort of just read it sporadically, and no, I messed that up. Supporting the Vanderbilt on Madison Avenue internship program. She's also a member of the Brooklyn chapter of Lynx Inc., an international not-for-profit corporation established back in '46, which is the nation's oldest and largest volunteer service organization of extraordinary women who are committed to enriching, sustaining, and ensuring the cultural and economic survival of African Americans and other persons of African ancestry. Oh my God, Monique, I'm exhausted from just reading your fabulous background, right? One more thing I want to just add. In 2016, because I played a part in this one, she received the United Way of New York City's Women's Leadership Council's Power of Women to Make a Difference Award. Yay. Her other distinguished honors include the Network Journal's 25 Influential Black Women Under 40, Ad Age's 40 Under 40, and the 2015 Advertising Working Mothers of the Year Award. So without further ado, I got two amazing women for us to chat with today. So what do you have to say, Monique and Alyssa? You ready for this?
We're ready.
Ready.
Excellent. Okay. So let me just skip past my readings. Oh my God, where do we start? What's right? What's wrong? Am I silent? Do I speak up? I'm a white girl. You're a black girl. Are you African American or are you black? What's right? What can I say? What's insensitive? Is it exploitative to ask you to do something, or is it the generous offer of sincerity? There is so much to be asked and so much to be said and so much to be heard right now that, you know, we've just got to talk through it. We've got to listen, we've got to learn, and it's not your job to tell us what's right or wrong. That's incumbent on us. But I think that those of us that may be, you know, and I will say, looking at who's in the room here, there's a lot of us white girls, and we're all women, so we all sit in one vertical together, if we want to look at it like that. Some of us are Jewish. We've been persecuted over the years for other reasons. So maybe we've experienced a little modicum of this in different ways. But this is a very serious conversation, and there's a lot of unconscious bias. But if you're conscious, does that mean you're not unconscious? So Monique, I'm going to ask you from a workplace standpoint, if you're aware that you're unconscious, does it mean you're conscious? Is there no such thing? What does that really mean? We hear that come up a lot. Well, and I always questioned it, and I was really glad when I heard other people starting to question it.
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, for everyone, just know that unconscious bias, everybody has it. So, first and foremost, take a breather. I am giving everyone grace to take a breath, because we're all allowed to do that. What I don't want people to do is look at this moment and go, oh, shit, I can't do anything about it. Because you actually can. Let's start now. It's the ability to start now and start to peel that onion around some of the things that we've all been perpetuating, not speaking up about, and letting things just happen. I think what you're hearing right now in the Black community in America is silence means acceptance from our allies. And when I look at, you know, Kathi and, you know, my other white friends, I see them as allies. An ally is a verb. It's, you know, not an adjective. It's not describing. It's an actionable piece. And that's what I think we're looking for. is exactly what Kathy's opening said, which is we're a news cycle away. A lot of Black people feel like we're a news cycle away from this being over and everybody getting back to normal. And that's what we are in this conversation beginning to say, no, we're not. We're going to acknowledge the fact that we haven't really acknowledged 400 years of oppression of Black people in America. We are going to acknowledge the omission of our history in our textbooks so that no one really knows and understands how much Black Americans have contributed to the establishment of this country as it stands. So it is a matter of going to the resources, reading, listening, watching, right? There's documentaries on all of this. And we are more than happy. And those of us that raise our hand to say, we're here, we mean it. But we want you to come with some really thought of questions, thoughtful, what does that mean? And then what are you doing in your day-to-day life? When I speak to my CEOs and other folks, the issue really comes down to this needs systemic change. And systemic change means looking at all of your processes and being thoughtful about where in those processes could your unconscious bias be kicking in. And it does all the time. And Kathi, we talk about it often. How often have we given that internship to our buddy's friend, our buddy's daughter or son, right? And not even question the fact that, did we really take it? Did we vet that properly? Did we think about all the people that could have been, that could have been someone's opportunity?
Yeah.
Have we really thought about the fact that we've probably all hired someone based on someone else telling you that they were great?
Yeah.
Right? Because they happen to be senior to you? How many folks have not been hired because they didn't golf with the CEO or the president, right? Or they weren't in the after work, club.
Yeah.
So there are those moments that we all now, hopefully, and we've been talking about it, now that you see it, right? I'm gonna do it like 9/11. You're gonna see something, we need you to say something and bring it up. So I'll stop there because I
love that. I love that. And, thank you for touching on the internship thing, because you're right. And we spoke about that, but Alyssa, are you seeing, you're so embedded in the music and entertainment culture. And it's interesting because Monique brings sort of that corporate advertising brand, Madison Avenue kind of perspective to it from a business standpoint. You're in the music, entertainment, cultural space. And, I can tell you that what I'm aware of is there's so much influence, such incredible influence and so much impact from the Black and African American communities in our lives every day. But, is that us exploiting or is that us appreciating? And, what is that conscious, unconscious bias that one might witness in the music industry? Because maybe there's a little more respect for all of the artistry and all of the talent. And, does that change the conversation, or is it the exact same conversation and maybe worse? What do you think, your peers and those in your industry are seeing and hearing?
Yeah, this week has been very interesting, especially because, firstly, of everything that we are all experiencing right now. But one thing that brought up a lot of conversation was last week's Blackout Tuesday. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but basically it was the music industry-wide shutdown. And it was started by 2 Black women in the industry. And basically they wanted all of the people in the industry to just stop and pause and basically interrupt their regular work cycles so that they can address the issues head on. They didn't want to do it on a Monday because they said that would suggest a 3-day weekend. And they didn't want to do it on a Friday because they said that would be too far and change needs to happen now. So they chose Tuesday. And in response, many of you may have seen, a lot of people were simply posting the black squares with, hashtag Blackout Tuesday or Black Lives Matter or whatever hashtag they wanted to post. Half of the conversation that arose after that was basically, you know, are these companies meaning what they say, or are they just jumping on board with the hashtag? And I think that applies to everything in the industry. Are you just jumping on a hashtag or something that's going to make you money, or are you actually doing the work behind the scenes? And I'm proud to say that our company took it very seriously. We had a conversation at the end of the day with our team members, and, you know, we opened the floor for conversation. And not only did we have that, but we had follow-ups. And I think that's a very important point, because a lot of the time, the conversations that we have are simply that. They're just conversations, and then they stop there. And if we're wanting to do something about it, then we have to have follow-up action. And so for me, I felt it was very important for our company to be transparent. So I said, you know what, we're going to post the notes that we took on the call on our social media so that people can see the exact notes from our call. And I think it's very important for different companies to also, not saying copy us, but kind of be more transparent in that way. Because in the music industry, I think a lot of the important decisions happen behind closed doors. And so at the end of the day, if you were just keeping everything behind closed doors and, you know, the only conversations you hear about Black culture are the sensationalized aspects of it, and then I think that's what everyone's going to get. So at the end of the day, for me at least, it's important for people to have these conversations and have follow-up actions afterwards, so that it doesn't simply, you know, get sucked into the vortex of everyday workplace conversations and then get left at that.
Right. And I think that one of the biggest fears is the fact that these things will disappear as opposed to become highly actionable new strategies, new systems, new processes. And I mean, look, there's the workplace and all of those corporate conversations. There's the government, there's the streets, there's how we behave when we walk into any of our usual, you know, social environments. It's our place of worship. It's everywhere. It's not just, okay, let's check the box over here and, oh, we did good, so I can not be that good human in other places because my work does that. You know, that's the other thing that I think there are people out there that are going to feel like there's a box checked in their world because of maybe the work thing covers off on them, and that's not enough either. So it's a very holistic initiative, and we keep hearing systemic racism, and it is such a, you know, strong and powerful way to refer to so much of the issue because there are so many systems at play. But there are barriers on so many levels in work, in social circles. How do we help people break down those barriers? You know, there is listening, there is learning, but what do we do to do that? What is that action?
So that action has to be inclusive, right? Like you have to look at where you're looking, right? And who you're with. One of the things that's happened to me in the last 10 days is, you know, a lot of people joining my network. Just, you know, officially saying, you know what, I don't know any Black people.
Wow.
And you know what,
how does that make you feel?
That would hinder. Listen, if you are, again, I give everyone grace in this moment.
Yeah, which is beautiful.
Right? I have to. Because it's counterproductive,
yeah,
for me to be mad that you're making a step in the right direction.
Right? You know what? Can I give you a really bad analogy?
Sure. Of course.
It's really bad, but it totally reminds me of this. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, what does this remind me of? It's like saying to your husband, I see here. Wait, hold on. It's like saying to your husband after 20 years, honey, you never bring me flowers or make me coffee in the morning. And what does he do? The next day he brings you flowers. And you're like, really? Because I told you all these 20 years you didn't bring them to me. And now you bring them because I told you. But then you got to go, wait a minute. He heard me and he heard that it matters. Right. And the fact that I am being heard, I should appreciate, and to your point, you have such grace to let these people in if now's the time and they didn't know better or they were asleep at the wheel. God bless.
Or scared. I'll be
Yeah.
honest, there was a lot more people that were scared. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's understandable, right? If you really feel the tension around, do I call you Black or African American? And we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
And I've been encountered with that at hello. And I've often said, well, my name's Monique. We can start there, right? Like, you don't get nervous about whether I'm Black or African American. If you want to just look at me and say, oh, what's your name? That works too, right? So give people that room, first and foremost, to say, if race makes you uncomfortable, then I'm going to make you uncomfortable just as a presence. So if we want to get past that, then let's really get to know what's going on, right? So I'm okay with that. Of course, I've gotten people that I've been trying to talk to forever that have talked to me the last week. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, if we're all in it, we can make radical change, because this is radical change. This isn't a pivot.
Yeah.
This is radical change around, and what are we doing? Because Alyssa, her generation will absolutely change the game, and they see the world very differently than us old fogies, right? Like, I'm sorry, they are out there, COVID, no COVID, saying enough's enough. And I feel like they're gonna keep doing it. And we need to support them in the boardrooms and in the classrooms and everywhere else to make sure that this doesn't loop, right? Because my parents remember this 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Right, my mother's from the segregated South. So she's going, what the hell? Did we just loop 50 years? And I'm like, kinda.
Yeah.
Right? But we're gonna try it. We're gonna keep trying it again, right? Like, because we're not going to do that. And I have a 6 and 4-year-old that I do not want to loop 30 years from now, right? Like, we can't do that. So it is our time. And it's time to figure out, how do we support Alyssa and her teams to make sure that this gets eliminated? Because it is going to be a journey, guys. I wish I could tell you we could snap our fingers like I Dream a Genie and make it happen. It's not. There are areas everywhere that we do the wrong thing, or we're not thinking it through. We're not opening that aperture to really say, are we getting the best talent?
Right.
Are we getting the best people? Are we getting the best brains around these ideas so that we can get to the next level?
And how do we do that from a younger level? And playing, devil's advocate, if I may, when I know that X number of friends reached out to me and said, my kid needs an internship, right? And I was like, great, I need interns for the summer, done. I didn't proactively go out, especially because we're not in our regular normal office environment, but it's a whole other session we could do on onboarding interns in a virtual reality Zoom life. But how do we encourage young people to raise their hand when for so long they may have felt scared to raise their hand? And Alyssa, this may be more your generation, that are so many young people that are exceptions, but it's not the norm perhaps, to feel entitled and to feel like, oh, I'm going to go up for that job just like the other person? Or are there things that could be done so we are creating and affording more opportunities? And somebody just actually made a really interesting comment here in the chat, and it was actually one of my questions, but what can we do? And it's not just the Black community to reach back, as noted in the comments, but all of us to reach back into the communities and pull people forward. And I say, that's incumbent on all of us. And I think that's one way we can do more and be more proactive about it. But to this comment in our question here in the chat, maybe even in the music industry, a lot's being done. Could there be more? Sorry, Dylan, that was your question or comment here. Are we doing enough? I heard Magic last night talking about, yeah, just his generosity in the community, which we know, but even more so. And again, but yeah, is there more we can be doing to support this next generation? So we are using the building blocks.
Yeah. I actually just had a conversation with somebody in the industry, and she brought up a very good point, and that is, if we as a larger company are recruiting interns, we have to be mindful of where we're recruiting from. And similar to what you just said, Kathi, it could be one of your friends' kids or just somebody you know. And while that's totally fine to do, are you also just as equally offering those opportunities to somebody else? So it doesn't mean take all the opportunities away from your friends' kids. I don't think that's what we're saying. It's simply, can we make the playing field a little bit more even? And in the conversation I was having with this person, she was explaining to me, and it made perfect sense. And that is, if you are also opening up the floor to kids in inner city schools or kids who go to schools that are, known for school to prison pipelines, these kids aren't necessarily going to have the funds to go fly out and stay wherever it is that your company is located. And these kids are also not going to have cars to get there. So if you're simply just saying, hey, come work for me, great. I mean, thank you. But at the same time, no, thank you, because I can't get out. So that's a very important point that I think we should all be talking about as well. And like I said, you're not taking away opportunities from other people. And I think that's been such a negative focus on this whole thing is, well, we shouldn't be taking the opportunities away from deserved, I'm just going to say white people, you know what I mean? And that's again, that's
right.
not the conversation. It's simply right. How can we in the playing field?
And grow the pie, right? Mm-hmm. Like part of this is growing the pie.
Yeah.
And I think we look at things in such finite ways that it's usually a win-lose, and this is actually a win-win. We've been talking a lot about the fact that there's some now action that you're taking right now, right? Like at this point, anybody who's sitting on this call right now is like, I'd like to do something now.
Yeah.
And the now is, let's educate ourselves, let's figure out how we can do better, and then we'll let you know when we're ready to move on to the next stage, right? In which will be, the restore phase. Right. And let's really not forget that we've got COVID still.
Right. And I got to tell you, last week, and this is why we've been talking about this intern thing, because I shared with Monique and Alyssa that last week, while all this was going on, I did a lot of self-reflection. And I'm not here to tout what I have and haven't done, but I have to say I'm pretty proud of who I am. And I've done what I feel have been a lot of the right things, if you will. But I was very conscious of the fact that I just hired 2 wonderful interns, daughters of friends. Actually, one was a friend of my son's, one was a daughter of a friend. And in that moment last week, when all this was going on, I thought, what more could I be doing? Small agency, it's a small company. I may not fit that big corporate conversation that's being had from the business standpoint, but what could I be doing? And I thought, I could have one more intern. Do I need one more intern right now? No. Did I lose half my business because of COVID? Yes. Are we hanging on by a shoestring? Yes. Do I need more staff to keep busy? Heck, I'll have them market my book all day long, right? Like I'll find something, but all I wanted to do was find an opportunity so that I could raise my hand and say, is there a kid out there that is college age? So I wrote to Alyssa and I said, Alyssa, if you know of anybody who is Black, who is a college kid, who is looking for an internship, I have an opening and I would love to be, I'd love to offer that. And that to me felt like the right thing to do, although it felt really contrived. I'm being really honest. It felt really contrived to sort of be asking that question. And I didn't know if it was wrong or right, but I felt it's the only way that I'm going to get to. I'm not going to post this on Facebook. That would be kind of obnoxious. But I can ask my friend who I know may know, and we've talked about employing other people before, and she was looking for someone to work at the company a couple of months back. And this is a normal conversation for Alyssa and I. So yeah, I added the word Black in there purposely because I wanted to make sure that the next person that reached back to me and said, hey, I'm interested, would be someone out of the pool of talent that is out there, or young people with no talent that we can nurture and teach, which is what an internship is about. So that to me,
Kathi, I want to jump in and just, obviously I'm very pink and I don't want to interrupt the call. I want to tell you that that story is the point. You cannot change what you have already done. You can change how you think and how you go about it. All right, so the point is to use the word Black and to start to say, I want to have a Black intern. This is an intention and I want to do it on purpose. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to be a part of that movement. And congratulations for you. Yeah, it may feel weird because you've never done it before, because we've kind of been taught by the system not to say Black. Is it African American? What is it? The point of the matter is, it's systemic. That's why you don't want to say it.
right.
So get out there and say, hey, Alyssa, girl, I got something to tell you. I don't have any Black interns. Need one now. Maybe even two.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Anne. I appreciate
Good for
that.
you. Good for you. Go get them, Kathi.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no fear in intentionality.
Right.
Right.
Well,
When we talk about D&I, we are being intentional around inclusion.
yeah.
Right? Because we know that if your company is diverse, first, just gender alone will give you a 15% bump. If you then infuse it with ethnic and cultural diversity, you go up 35%. Who doesn't want to have a 35% bump in your revenue ever? Like every time I say that to a CEO, they go, oh. And I'm like, you must be, right? Like we know this works scientifically. It works. There are studies on top of studies. Harvard, McKinsey, BCG. I mean, every known consultant to man says that if you do this right, and it is about being managed properly, there is nothing but upside.
Yeah.
What we have not tackled is the managed correctly. Because cultures,
I was just
different
asking that.
cultures take effort. It takes effort to manage a bunch of different types of people. And most of us as managers, and I'm as guilty as the next person, I'm tired. Tired of doing evaluations, tired of talking, tired to find out what your key is to turn you on, right? Because everybody's got a different mojo to get them going. But really, when you're a great manager, you realize that and you figure out how to put the right team together.
Yeah.
Right? And you realize how some people may struggle on their, writing or their sales skills. So you pair them up with someone else who's really good at it, but maybe they're not so good as analytics, right? I remember my MBA class, I was always the presenter. I hated pivot tables, so I gave that to Tope. Right? Like I was like, whoever wants me to speak it and sell it, I'm your girl. Who's the person who's going to do this pivot table for me because I can't stand Excel? So not that I couldn't do it, but it wasn't my strong suit. And it wasn't something that I was excited about leaning into. So I found a buddy, right? We got an A out of that class, even with me not doing the pivot tables. So it works. And that's what we have to kind of move forward with. Like everybody's got their lane. Everybody's got something amazing to offer. Let's put that together. But that does take time, energy, management, engagement, tweaking, because people go through stuff, right? And as Kathy's book so beautifully illustrates, we're continually reinventing, right? And that's what makes management so exhausting, right? People leave, people come, people are great at one point, then they suck at another, right? You're going through this moment all the time. And unfortunately, if you're gonna do it right, that is part of the job. It never ends. It never does. Well, so that's the part that we've got to be comfortable with. That's that.
Right. But it takes hard work. It takes hard work. And you're right. It's continuously, and I talk about it, and I thank you for referencing the book, because I continuously talk about that need to get out of your comfort zone. and that need to think out of the box, and the risk and the reward that comes with it, the upside, the findings, what you learn about yourself, what you learn about the world around you, what you learn about what you're capable of. God, it's 3:20 and that's killing me because I can't believe, like, I feel like, I'm in no rush to get off this call, but I have to respect everybody's time. I want to ask a couple of other questions here. And this is really interesting because I kind of touched on it earlier on. That question that came up, and I don't know, Monique or Alyssa or anybody else here if you read about this, but I happen to know Chantel Martin. So it really got my attention. And I saw her post on social media, and then I saw everybody else starting to post her post. I met her years ago on the Summit at Sea boat cruise and got to hang out and kind of chat with her a little bit. And so I just felt like this connection. And apparently McCann reached out to her and said, we want to do a campaign. This was like 4 days ago. We want to do a campaign for Microsoft. We want to use your art. We want a Black artist, and we want your art because of what you do and how you do it. And we want to do it really quickly. I think it was on the Madison Avenue storefront or Fifth Avenue, some major storefront. And we got to do it really quickly because, we don't want this moment to pass. And I think you just heard the last few things I just said. We don't want this moment to pass. So all of that to get to a point that really validated their mindset, which I think speaks volumes to the systemic issue, which is if you're getting a Black artist to do something in a store window for 10 minutes while this is a hot topic, no thank you, I'm not interested. And I'm sure they didn't, quote, mean it that way, but needless to say, this got picked up. It got picked up in Adweek. It got picked up in a lot of social media. And it's a legitimate concern, but it makes you question at what point is somebody being invited or asked to do something, even if the request was long-term, to be part of an ongoing campaign would have been a much nicer thing for Chantel to have heard, rather than we need it right now, really quickly. I'm just trying to find, I'd written one of the quotes. But I think, is it commoditizing the Black culture? Is it the invitations that need to be more of? Is it exploitation? How does one know, what they're doing, if they're doing it? Either of you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I do have something to say. I mean, as someone with a marketing background, I'm very aware of the whole marketing funnel and the check marks that you have to check off simply to get it approved. And I think that's the obstacle right now, is that there are so many people involved in the decision-making process when it comes to publicizing material. And with that in mind, everybody's just thinking about right now, how do we protect the company from being attacked? Or how do we protect the company from, people being mad at us because we didn't say anything? And the thing is, I really do think it comes down to the people in leadership. And if anybody on this call is in one of those positions, to take hold of those conversations and allow people the moment to think. Because I think everyone's just kind of jumping at the opportunity to be on this Black Lives Movement hashtag. And, it's kind of sad because you can see right through it a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And if we want to make this a lasting change, then the people in those, positions of power are going to be the ones who have to step up and say, this is not going to be a flash in the pan. We're not going to just have a Black artist create our storefront design. We're going to have this be an ongoing thing and have this a part of our conversation. And, and also it's okay to take a moment and think about your response, because I've been seeing so many companies this past week just saying, we stand with you, Black Lives Matter. And, however you want to interpret that, there's so much more work to be done. And I think when companies just leave it at that, it gets, a little bit disheartening, I think, in the whole conversation of change, because the corporations who do have the money, or even the smaller businesses who have a local voice, I think it's very important for those people to just step up and say, you know what, this isn't going to be a 1 week conversation. How are we going to not only have these conversations move forward, but actually set reminders? And I think that's an important thing for us all to do. It's okay to set reminders about checking in with yourself. And you do that with any goal that you have. New Year's resolutions. How many times have we set a goal and then we fell off by the end of January? It's kind of the same thing. We're just thinking about it as a resolution or something that we want to change, but it has to be deeper than that, and it has to be more personal.
You're right. Monique, any thoughts about that?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think at this point in time, it's, it's critical to put an action plan together. And without that, we only treasure what we measure. So, I have to agree with Alyssa that it is super important that we all think about our future.
Oh, hi, cutie.
And, and I think that's really, where we are at this point is it is systemic, and it's at every level. I've been dealing with it, and it's something that we do every day, and that's part of why we're here. And, some of the other things that we can do is really encourage, especially our large corporations, to really look at our supplier diversity, look at your vendors.
Yeah.
Lots of places to affect. How do you affect a small, diverse business? How do you affect maybe even your talent pool? Just by opening yourself up to, diverse suppliers, could make a world of difference that, you hadn't even thought of. So there's lots of opportunities. There's quite a few organizations at this particular moment that could use your support and could be valuable to your organizations. So I think it's also really important that you look at your ecosystem and everywhere you can support. And I can't stress it enough that, COVID's still happening.
Yeah.
And I really, and the part that almost makes me, really nervous is that we've got to factor all of that in right now. And I think that's part of the reason that it's all coming together. And we all need to know that our health is our ultimate wealth. And we've got to get everybody healthy in this country to be able to move our agendas forward. So we're all in this together. I'm really appreciative of the forum that you've offered, Kathi, and just excited to make sure that we keep our foot on the gas. As long as there's allyship like yours, we can make radical change.
Thank you. I've got one more question before we all have to sign off, if I may. I think we've got another voice in the room. I want to just ask quickly about the impact of voting. And Alyssa, I know it's something that you guys have been talking about internally. Oh. I want to just talk about the role of voting. Is there more that can be done to create, again, impact on the larger kind of body of who's out there running everything that's going on? And where does the role of voting play into that? Sorry, it's like we...
Kathi, I'm sorry, it broke up on my end.
Sorry. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sorry, I just wanted to talk about the impact of voting, voting in the Black community. Sorry, somebody that's, there we go. Yeah, the impact of voting in the Black communities and the ability to maybe create affect more change through voting. And I think that's something that you guys have talked about within your company as well, just sort of it's come up in conversation.
Yes. So my end, it's very important, and this is something I've been learning a lot within these past couple of weeks, is the importance of local government and local participation. I think a lot of times we simply say one person in power is going to change everything if we get him or her out of office. While it may change a few things here and there, if you think about change and how it's happened, it's always started locally and simply at a grassroots level. So it's very important for us to be involved, and I had to take responsibility and step up, because my entire life it's kind of been a lackadaisical attitude about it, and recently it's been kind of thrown in my face. That's not how this works. If you're going to complain about anything, you have to reevaluate yourself and say, have I done anything to prevent what I'm complaining about? And I think if we all just kind of take a moment and pause to reflect on ourselves first, then I think we'll have much more productive conversations instead of pointing fingers at people when we ourselves haven't even participated in the whole process.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for government and individual companies, your neighborhoods, your counties, anything. So at any point in time when you have a voice, I think we forget often how important our voices are and our words. And if we can be using those more effectively, I think that it'll undoubtedly bring us to a better place.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, I think it's something that we all have to weigh in a little bit more with all that's going on right now as well. So, you know, there's a lot to be mindful of, a lot of listening to do, a lot of learning, a lot of loving. What's a love? We need a lot of love, right? A lot of rosé and a lot of love.
Nothing like rosé, it makes it all better.
It does. But in all seriousness, I am touched to have such beautiful friends in my life. And I love you both individually and collectively. And I'm so grateful that I was given a chance to dig into this conversation today and learn more and listen more and share with our friends more that are with us, that will continue to share. I feel like we could do a part 2 on this. As a matter of fact, I think we should do a part 2 on this in a month, and a part 3 a month later, and a part 4 a month later. I think this should be a continuum in our reinvention conversations, to check in, to bring friends to the conversation, to just make sure that everybody is accountable and acting, you know, in ways that are going to move us all forward. And
Kathi, one piece of advice: anyone in your organizations, I would highly recommend a safe place, especially if you're a senior leader. I have found that that's really effective. If you can have or host safe space office hours, is what I'm calling them.
Wow.
It really is an hour or a half hour where anybody in your organization could kind of come in and have that vulnerable conversation. I found it to be really helpful and allowing people to get it out. And I think to everyone's point around, I'm not sure if it's moderated, if you can, you know, bring, you know, the right leader, if you have a D&I person, if you have someone that's, you know, passionate about the space, to start hosting those conversations. It always is better when you can get to know someone and really dig in, and it starts to break down a lot of those walls. And there's nothing that gets around that. So I would just encourage all of us, especially leaders, and if you have any influence on leaders, kind of jumpstart that.
To recommend that. No, I think that's great. I think, look, everybody has to have a voice and speak up. And, you know, you can't be the person sitting in silence going, oh, somebody else will take care of it. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time to be vocal and to stand up for what we believe in and to do something about it. And to your point, Monique, not be revisiting this loop in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, that your boys and, God willing, Alyssa's children one day will, there are no kids right now. I was just kidding. But one
can say
day
aunt.
that all of our kids, I mean, look, I live in LA. My children were in the LA public school system where they were a 20% white minority. Their best friends are Black. They dated Asian girls. They've like it's their culture. It's their life. They're colorblind. They are blissfully colorblind. And that's a pretty amazing thing. I don't know if I got cut out there, but I said they are blissfully colorblind. It looked like my line broke up.
Well, I hope they're not.
And it's an extraordinary thing. And I learn from that every day, So
I hope they're not
sorry,
colorblind.
say that again.
I said, I hope they're not colorblind. I want them to be color fluent.
Oh, is that the word? Color fluent.
Because color blindness actually says you don't see me.
Oh,
so
okay. And I thought it meant like, I don't see all the different colors. I just see, okay.
I need you to see me. I need you to absolutely see me, right? And
I've learned something valuable.
Yeah, no, colorblind actually is one of the cop-outs, right? Like all lives, right? And really and truly, all lives do matter, but it can't matter until Black lives really matter.
Yeah.
And that's the nuance here, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's not treated equal.
No.
And we see 100%. It, and we see it, and we get it, and now we're starting to acknowledge that.
Yeah, so, but we have to be really focused on the agenda at hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
I love you all.
Alyssa, any parting words from you?
Yes, I mean, I would just say again, everybody's words.
Alyssa?
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I would just say again that as a reminder, everybody's words hold such importance.
Yeah.
So even from your social media to the way you talk to people, do not spread problematic narratives. I think it's very important to recognize the power of your words. Again, whether that's on a platform or face-to-face. Don't say things online that you wouldn't say to someone's face, and try to help clean up the garbage that's out there.
The narrative, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so grateful. I know it's late and everybody's got to go, and thank you for your comments in the chats. I tried to kind of pull them into the conversation. Thank you guys. Thank you, Monique and Alyssa, for today and for sharing part of your time and yourselves and your love and your heart. And I love you both. And I'm grateful for all of you that showed up today and the conversation. And let's just, go make sure this world is a beautiful place for us to all live in and thrive in and bring our children up in, and hope we're not still having to have these. Is that my book you're holding up? Yes.
Start now.
Oh, I love you. Thank you.
I have mine.
Good. Well, thank you all, and have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon. And I'm not joking about this. I think we're going to do a recurring series here. I think it's important.
Looking forward to it. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.